Hey everyone, how you guys doing today? This is Jim from the Pain PT, and we're going to continue to talk here about understanding the brain and central nervous system. And today is I'm going to show you a couple of visuals that will hopefully help you understand this more, that it's the brain, not the body, when it comes to a lot of chronic sensations or chronic somatic symptoms that we are experiencing, persistent or recurrent symptoms that don't have a medical cause or are not medically diagnosed, or you're not sure what's going on, or they've been going on for such a long period of time that they're not making sense from a structural or physical standpoint anymore. So I want to go over this today, and I hope this helps you guys. If you enjoy it, give it a thumbs up. Again, I welcome you to subscribe so you get my videos when they come out. I'll continue to help you all. And if you want support, need help on your journey to get back to feeling better, reach out. That's what I do for a living now full time. I don't treat people with regular acute, subacute injuries anymore that are physically related because those things heal. Those things heal pretty quickly, normally, naturally. Regardless of what we do, they're going to heal. So they're actually quite easy. These conditions are a little more complex and can take a little time to get out of, but so rewarding, as you know, for those of you that have recovered and are feeling better and become a success story, which I want all of you to do. That is such a rewarding thing, not only for yourself, but even for me as a practitioner to help people get out of sometimes years or decades of different somatic symptoms. So here we go. We're going to talk a bit here again to try to understand what's happening in the brain here and central nervous system. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys here, and we're going to look at this here today. Okay, that it's the brain and not the body. And I want to go over this because this visual will help you to understand this more. We had this old view of pain and somatic symptoms, bodily symptoms, being a sort of bottom-up process, okay, meaning that it comes from your body and goes up to your brain. As you can see here, this is an old view of how pain would work in the system, that it starts in your body, let's say in your foot here, for example, it could be anywhere in your body, travels up your neural pathways, up your spinal cord, hits your brain, and you notice pain or you notice a symptom. It's called nociception, okay? The signals going upward from the body to the brain are called nociceptive signals. They, in and of themselves, don't mean you're going to have pain or going to have a symptom. They're just sending information to the brain, okay, as you see here in the blue area. The brain then decides, based on a couple of things you see here, we'll talk about whether there's an actual danger or threat in the body, or whether it's perceiving a danger or threat from the information it's gathering through your senses. So remember, you've got all these senses in your body. You've got taste, touch, smell, sight, sound, proprioception. You've got all different senses that pick up information at all times, and other people, locations, pressure on the body, touch, all these movement. This here, all different pieces of information coming in from your body right here, traveling and hitting your brain. Now, if we look at the brain here and try to understand it and how this is the central computer, the brain decides if there is a problem or not. This is really a take-home message today. Your brain is the deciding factor if you're going to have pain or not. Okay, it's not the body, because as you know, many of you are having chronic somatic sensations in the body all over the place. People are getting better from this work. We're proving that it's not a bodily symptom from a bodily cause. We're proving that it's upstairs in the brain, that that's the primary reason why people are having recurrent, persistent, or chronic type symptoms. And if you look here for some of the reasons, and I talk about these prior experiences, right? So these are things like trauma, PTSD events, highly stressful experiences, adverse childhood events, neglect, things like this, abuse. Anything that was a traumatic experience or that was a stressful experience is stored in your brain. The brain is going to calculate its reaction based off that information many times. It also is based on attention and expectation. We talked a lot about attention. So one of the on the 4 steps is that your focus Again, if your brain is focusing here on, let's say, your foot where it's hurting, and you're making connection here, well, depending on what you think about your foot, you may be amplifying the fire here, so to speak, amplifying the symptom in your body through your attention, if it's a negative hypervigilant attention. Expectation as well. Expectation is related to belief and outcomes, and that's related to either what's called nocebo effect. If you have a negative expectation because of what you've learned, what people have told you, that's called nocebo. That was surely going to have an interpretive effect on the signals you were coming into your brain. So you're starting to get the picture here that your brain has all these things in it, and it makes instantaneous calculations of threat or danger based on not only the signal coming into the brain from the body, but also the brain's interpretation based on what it's been through, prior experiences, based on what type of attention you give it, your expectations, again, your beliefs, your mood. So anxiety, if you're anxious or depressed or emotionally reactive or an emotionally activated state, stressed state, well, yeah, that's going to also shape the brain's interpretation of what's going on, likely to shape it towards more threat and danger. Other changes in the brain I'll show you in a moment that can go on. There are some genetic tendencies here as well. And then there's what's called sensitization, peripheral and central sensitization. And what we're talking about here primarily is central sensitization, something I spoke about in one of my other videos. You can look it up, is very real. And central sensitization is when your brain, the central nervous system, which includes your spinal cord, is hyper reacting. It's overreacting to normal input coming in up the nerves from your senses, right? Senses, sensitization, it's the same thing. From your senses, what is picking up is being blown up at the brain level because of the brain is in a state of sensitization. It's in a highly reactive, a highly protective state. We use that word protective because it's important to understand that most of this is protective. The brain is kicking this out in your body to protect you from what it perceives as too dangerous or threatening. And that decision is made in your brain based on all the things I mentioned here. Okay, so hopefully you understand this. And we'll wrap it up at the end here so that you can put it together. Okay, in the second picture here, we're going to show you today, it's the brain, not your body. This is what happens, okay, with when we have persistent, recurrent, or ongoing symptoms in the body, like chronic pain or anything, any other symptom or sensation that becomes recurrent, persistent, or chronic. The system undergoes changes, okay? We get actual, sometimes extra sensitization in the periphery. Now, again, we will have, let's say, an injury to your foot, for example, or anywhere in your body could cause a nociceptive signal travel to your brain, and the brain says, oh yeah, something's not right here, there's something wrong. And there's a lot of inflammation, there's a lot of swelling, there's a lot of pain, there's discoloration. It's there for a reason, right? I broke my foot, I fractured my foot. Okay, so that's in a peripheral way, that's going on locally at the foot. Okay, you injured your foot. And that's where the inflammation is being created because there's an injury to one of the tissues. And that alerts the brain. The brain says, yeah, there's something wrong with my foot. Go to the doctor, get it x-rayed, get put in a boot, start protecting it again, right? The brain was alerted to some threat or danger because of what happened to your foot. And then you will go into the mode of protecting it, right? Putting it in a boot, letting it heal, and eventually getting back to life again. But when we have recurrent or chronic pain or chronic symptoms, or even actually when we have an acute sensation or symptom, it could be that there is nothing wrong in the periphery or in the body here. Okay, there could be actual inflammation, there could be actual pain, there could be actual discoloration, but the source of that issue is not in the tissues, it's not in the body, it's up here in the brain and nervous system. Okay, so we can have the brain itself, by itself, if the brain feels threatened or in danger of some sort, at some level, it's picking something up. It can make an instantaneous calculation, and what it will do is produce a somatic sensation in your body, and you'll feel it somewhere. So the brain itself can produce this through the nervous system here. But what can also happen is the brain takes in information. Even let's say you had an acute injury of some nature, a real physical injury, possibly. At some point, if the brain, like I showed you in the previous slide, is having all these things going on that's perceiving that symptom or sensation to be threatening or dangerous, it's going to blow it up. It's going to create what's called central sensitization now and cortical reorganization at the brain level. So again, central sensitization is just like it sounds. Your nerve endings in your spinal cord, your brain, everything becomes more sensitive because the brain is feeling on edge. The brain is feeling scared, let's say, or it's feeling under some threat or danger because of all the mechanisms I mentioned in the previous slide. And because the input is coming in from, let's say, your foot, it keeps traveling up. The brain says, oh no, something's wrong. And then you could develop a chronic pain or a chronic symptom or sensation, even when this has healed. And this brain now and nervous system are the producer of the sensation, let's say, for example, in your foot. It's not the foot anymore because enough time has passed that the foot would have healed. The injury would have been healed, okay, locally. But once the brain becomes sensitized, what happens is it picks up even small bits of information that are just like pressure or touch, our movement, something like that. And that could activate the brain to kick this off because the brain becomes like an amplifier now. It's like a microphone because it's so sensitized. So normal information now creates an abnormal output from your brain, an abnormal reaction. The brain sends the signal back down again, and again, it blows it up, okay? I'll come back to the previous slide in a moment to show that. And then at the brain level, the brain actually changes this cortical reorganization. We see this on functional MRIs. The brain actually shifts into more of a heightened state, into more of a emotional state. It's on edge, it's overactivated, it's on alert, it's in that threat level. And we see this with PTSD and trauma as well. So you can imagine how a brain gets shaped from something like trauma, PTSD, adverse childhood events into this state where it can easily form central sensitization or overreaction to things that are completely normal, okay, normal inputs coming into your body. So if we go back for a moment and look at this here, remember it's a two-way street. You receive information from your body to your brain, and your brain sends signals back. Okay, so that's called descending top-down modulation. Now, you could either decide, the brain can either decide that this feeling in your foot or this pressure I'm feeling is dangerous and threatening because it's sensitized and has all these things here. And it will send a what's called facilitatory or excitatory signal back down to your foot to make that feel worse. Okay, so that make it into a pain now or make it into a strong symptom or sensation. The brain is doing that, not the body. Very important to understand this. And there's also pathways that are descending from your brain to calm down and quiet down a body part that's hurting or a pain or symptom. So it's not just excitation or facilitation, they call it, it's called inhibition. There's the ability to quiet down this if the brain decides it's not dangerous. And this is the whole point here I want to finish on for all of you here is once we know that the problem or issue is not in your body anymore, but it is in your brain and nervous system for these reasons here, then we need to start deciding, it's a strong word here, it's very important, and knowing that we are not in danger, we are not under threat. This is an overblown reaction from my central nervous system. Okay, and if you can decide that and you can believe that strongly enough and know that, your brain will send a signal back to your body to cause this to quiet down. And we see this happen with people once it kind of clicks or once they understand or once they know. Again, I love to use the example of you go to the doctor and what you find out is you're going in there kind of nervous and worried and scared. You're having lots of somatic symptoms. Doctor does his tests, comes back negative. He tells you, look, there's nothing wrong. You're okay. What happens? Your brain relaxes. Oh, thank God I'm okay. You relax. What happens? Your brain sends a descending signal down to what it thought was something wrong. There's nothing wrong. And the system quiets down, and the sensations or symptoms also quiet down. They go away. And this is this idea here. You decide. I want you to decide if there is danger or threat. Okay. I don't want your brain to decide if there's danger or threat. I want you to decide if there's danger or threat. Okay. So as I come back to here now, you decide if there's danger or threat. Your brain, because of all the things I mentioned here, all those different things, your prior experiences, your beliefs, your expectations, your attention, some genetic tendencies, okay, things like this, emotions, emotional state, anxiety, depression, those things are going to calculate a quick decision automatically without your input, maybe. You need to come in and say, wait a second. No, there is no danger or threat here. I decide if there's danger or threat. Okay. And the other reasons you decide too is based on your evidence. If you've been to the doctor, you've been checked out, and they say, no, there isn't anything serious going on in the body, and you have the history for some of these things that you can understand why your brain could be doing this, feeling threatened or in danger, then you know it's going to probably kick this out. And if it's already happening, it's already in place. Central sensitization is currently occurring. It will continue to occur until you can learn to quiet it down. And it starts again in your brain, knowing that there's no danger or threat, and you are interpreting the information or the symptom you feel or the sensation you feel as being fine now. See, this is so important. If you don't think it's dangerous and threatening, it's going to quiet down. Okay. If you don't believe that there's something wrong with you, it's going to quiet down. If you can respond when you feel a pain or symptom and say, no, that's nothing, brain. We're in no danger. I know we're not. We're absolutely fine. I decide if we're in danger or not. Okay. Not you, because I know why you're deciding, because I know my history. I've had trauma, PTSD. I know I had stress about this, right? You know your history. So you're having to teach your brain now and teach yourself, is there danger or threat? And you may have to do this many, many times because the brain continues to believe that, continues to operate off that until you've taught your brain enough times that, look, brain, there's nothing going on here. This looks to be a fire. My brain's creating this fire. There's not a real fire in my foot. My brain is making the fire worse. My brain is pouring gasoline on this little signal that's actually nothing and blowing it up into something. Okay, that's sensitization. So I hope this makes sense, everybody, to have a little visual to understand this, that it's your brain, not your body. Most of the time, the majority of the time, when you're having chronic, recurrent, undiagnosed, medically undiagnosed, or medically unknown, we don't know what the cause is. And a lot of these conditions where we know for sure there isn't a structural cause, like we have functional syndromes that are across the board, like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, migraines, IBS, all these different things, myofascial pain syndrome, and many more. All these conditions have a brain and nervous system driven component to them. And most of the time that is the cause, not the body, not the body. So that's why we have to go up here and start doing our work here. Thank you so much, everybody. If you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. It spreads the word. More people need to understand this, understand how the brain and nervous system work. That's really the most important organ in your body. And again, subscribe if you haven't. If you want help individually, personally with your situation to understand your condition from some of this perspective, reach out. You can reach me at thepainpt.com. You can sign up for individual or group sessions, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.